Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Amazi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode. This episode is for you if you are a man who sometimes finds himself staying away from pornography, but replacing pornography with some sort of sexual acting out behavior, like visiting with escorts or going to a massage parlor or getting on some sort of hookup app to have sex that might bring up shame for whatever reason. Maybe you are a straight man and you are hooking up or trying to hook up with other men or with individuals who are transgender, or you're just hooking up with whoever. It doesn't matter whether you find them attractive or not. There's no intimacy. So if you are that type of person, then you're going to find this interesting. This is based on a question that a brother in our implementation program asked. So I'm going to read it out and I'm going to give you my response. So he says, my current situation is that I'm managing pretty well without high-speed internet pornography. I've been living without high-speed internet pornography for about a month now, but at the moment, escorts are becoming an issue for me. He says, my reboot is currently such that I find myself in binges where I visit 3 to 4 escorts over the course of about 2 days, and then I continue with my reboots. Occasionally, he says, every few weeks, I have these binges. It's becoming difficult for me to break away from escorts. On one hand, I welcome this development because it allows me to manage my life without porn, even when unexpected slips pop up on social media. I now tend to rely on escorts rather than porn. Now, I want you guys to listen to what he says here. He says, the problem with all of this is that I see my current situation as one where I still have a few years ahead of me to become the person that I want to be, and where I can build an active and fulfilling sex life. He says, occasionally allowing myself something while staying on the path to becoming the person I want to be seems manageable to me. Unfortunately, I'm not a monk, and therefore it's hard for me to abstain from escorts. How can I deal with this? Now, there were like 81 people who saw this. There's so many responses. We've got a big group. But I'm going to jump right down to mine. The brothers gave some really great feedback. But here's what I said. And again, if you're a man who does this, please pay attention. First of all, I appreciate the self-awareness of this brother and the fact that he's vulnerable. However, he's not being honest. Why is he not being honest? He's not being honest because he's not running the show. Now, within our system, there's something that we call a subpersonality. And to keep it simple, since if you're listening to this, you might not be within our system, your subpersonality is that person you become when you are triggered. So you know how you visit with an escort or you go to a massage parlor or you binge watch pornography, and when you have orgasmed, that's when you come back to your senses. You're like, oh my God, who was I? Was I possessed by something? That person that you are when you're engaging in that behavior, that's what we could call your subpersonality. Now, some of us have many subpersonalities. In fact, sometimes when you orgasm, you don't go back to who you were prior to orgasming. So let's say you're working really hard and you were hitting all your goals. You were doing really well at work. You were just feeling yourself. You were like, man, I am so productive. I am crushing it, hitting the gym, good habits, good nutrition, everything. Then you just hit this point where you get a little bit stressed out. Your self-care is not quite on point. And then it builds up a little bit more. And then you find yourself binging on pornography. Now you orgasm, you come back to your senses, so to speak. And then you realize, like, man, I was doing so well. And now I feel horrible. I feel depleted. I feel disappointed in myself because I told myself that I wasn't going to do this again. And I've done so well for so many months or so many weeks. And a lot of shame comes up because you're like, man, I really thought I was making progress. But when I look at the porn, oh man, the type of porn I watched, the genre of porn I watched, I thought I would have,
changed tastes by now. I thought I wouldn't be watching this really fucked up stuff, but I still am. And then you might even take on a subpersonality that is rooted in shame. So now you are no longer performing at the level you were prior to your slip. So then for the next few weeks, you start wondering, you're like, wait a minute, before my slip, I was doing really well. I was focused. I had good habits. I had good nutrition. Everything seems to be falling apart after this relapse. Why is it that I'm no longer sure of myself? Why have I started procrastinating on my projects? Why am I no longer excited about work in the morning? Why is it when I'm reading, I am no longer focused on the things I'm studying? What's going on? Brother, it is not just that you've taken on a new personality, is you have to understand that your biochemistry changes when you relapse. This is the reason why, if you are a high performer, if you're a successful individual or an ambitious man who's headed towards success, you cannot afford repeated binges. But more importantly than that, you cannot afford the strong emotions that come up after a slip or relapse. But I digress. We're responding to this brother's question, and I said that he was not being honest. I said his addict was running the show because your subpersonality has a lot of rationalizations and justifications. Imagine saying that I'm doing really well staying off pornography and having sex with escorts is manageable to me. Imagine just saying that. Imagine that you're still dealing with the same triggers. You're still dealing with the same stress. You're still dealing with the same unresolved issues. But you just told yourself, like, well, if I have sex with a real human being that I'm spending money on in a compulsive way multiple times in a 2-day period, that I'm doing better, like I'm somehow managing. That's not you saying that, because it's a crazy thing. It is your subpersonality that has now taken over. You're trying to end your behavior with pornography, but it's like, nah, bro. Now we can't do it. We have to replace it with something else. But because you've lived with this subpersonality, you've listened to this voice for so long. And for those of you listening to this, this isn't any woo-woo stuff. I'm not really saying you're possessed. It's just who you are and the thoughts that come up when your nervous system acts in a certain way to just justify your needs. You've listened to it for so long that you take its advice more seriously than you do the advice of your accountability partner, your therapist, or your coach. And then I called him out and I said, listen, we were and we are, that is the rebooted brothers and the brothers who are still rebooting within the group, we're all experts at lying. That's why everyone could see through him. So he started off by saying he's managing pretty well. Listen, if you think that you are managing pretty well because you're not watching pornography at all, you're like, yo, I watch gay porn, I watch transgender porn, I watch snuff, I watch gore, I watch animals, I watch people getting hurt, I watch all kinds of fucked up things, JK, you don't even understand. It is better for me to just pay a woman and have sex with her than it is to view pornography. I want you to understand that within our program, first of all, we don't care the type of pornography you're watching. Now, obviously, if you are watching something that is illegal and you let us know, that is going to be problematic. But the genre of pornography, when it comes to your ending your behavior, is irrelevant. I want to make this very clear because there are a lot of you out there who think that, oh, because I watch pretty fucked up stuff, it's going to take me longer to end my behavior. No. Now, if you are doing fucked up stuff after you view pornography, then you are what we consider to be a level 6. And if that behavior that you are engaging in is compulsive and out of control, you are definitely a level 6. We can still help you, but just know that it is going to be more challenging for you. So it's not about what you watch. It's also about the behavior you're engaging. So you are acting out sexually. This brother is acting out sexually, but he's now headed down a path of sex addiction. You are headed down a path of sex addiction when you are not addressing the underlying issues that brings about your out of control behavior with pornography, and you are simply replacing it with sex and then telling yourself that, nah, I'm not watching pornography. This is healthier. It's a rationalization and you're justifying your behavior. In fact, I'll go as far as to call this brother out and say that he's actually still watching pornography. I don't truly believe him all the way. And here's the reason why. When you are acting out with somebody else sexually and you're doing it often, there is an edging factor involved. Edging is when you bring yourself to the edge of orgasm, but you don't act out. And in the edging process, it is highly probable that you're also viewing some sort of nudity, whether it is nudity of the pictures of the escorts, whether it is pictures, but there is some pornographic aspects to this, whether it's browsing through a catalog of this, but you are minimizing the pornography you're viewing because it is not in video format. You're just like, it's just pictures, it's just thumbnails, it's just the cover, it's just the brochure, it's just the whatever there is out there. But that is still pornography because it is still visual stimuli. Even if you didn't have visual stimuli, you don't get to the point of acting out with an escort without some sort of mental fantasy that is an out of control fantasy. It has to be out of control and it has to be compulsive for you to put your hand in your wallet and get cash, or for you to do that late night drive to the ATM to go get cash so you can pay for that. So I don't even believe that this brother is staying away from pornography. I hope you're tracking, brother, as you're listening to this. He also said, and I quote, "My reboot currently is such that I find myself in binges where I visit 3 to 4 escorts over the course of 2 days, and then I continue with my reboot." So I want to make it clear, this guy is not rebooting. You are not rebooting. What he's actually doing is, brother, I'm going to speak directly to this brother. You are in the group cosplaying. This is pretend for you. You're pretending to be a rebooter. And the real reason why you're posting this is to seek validation. Yes, there's a part of you that is genuinely seeking help, but there is a bigger part of you that is seeking validation from the other men in this group. It's your addict, your subpersonality that's making you do that. Why? Why is it that when we're seeking help from a therapist or coach, or we have accountability partners, or we're in a group, why will we show up and tell everybody what we've done? Why would we say that? Because you want to feel good. You want to feel good about acting out and then telling yourself that you're rebooting, or if you're like in a group, telling yourself that you're in recovery. You're like, well, at least I'm in recovery, right? Look at me doing the recovery work. Brother, that is not you. That is that part of you that is so cunning. It is that part of you that is you, but it wants to engage in this behavior. It's such a manipulator, and a fantastic one at that. So every time you relapse, you're not coming to the group for help. You're coming to the group because the feedback feels like you're doing the work. And what does it do? What does it do for you? What it actually does is that it simply reduces your guilt. Now, I want to make something clear. This brother had like 81 people look at this and so many comments. It's on Facebook. You know the only comment he hasn't responded to? You guessed it. Even though I posted this days ago, this brother, as of now, as I'm going through this, has not responded to me. Not because there's anything wrong with him. He's not doing anything wrong. But I've been doing this for like well over a decade. I'm going into my 13th year of coaching men to freedom from pornography. It is because his subpersonality does not want to engage with anyone that's going to call the subpersonality out. It is very uncomfortable. So as soon as you have done the work, in quotes, and you've received feedback, which is validation, you're going to be right back to it. So right after this brother shares this, and he's got like all kinds of feedback, guys saying things like, just don't give up on yourself. You can do this. Like, listen, you're playing yourself. You know what the truth is. After everybody has told him that, and because he's given big, long responses to people, he's like, yeah, man, understand. It's really a problem, like, what can I do to fix it? I can tell exactly what's going on. He's going to go to it. And how do I know this? I know this. Well, in this particular case, I'll just give you guys the background. This brother is not just in our group. He's also in other groups. And here's the interesting thing about being on Facebook. I'll just share it with you guys here. I own most of the groups. I've either bought out other groups or I have negotiated a deal with whoever runs the other group. Why? Because they understand that we have a superior system. So when I come to them, I'm like, listen, you got a whole bunch of people here talking about nofap, semen retention, and a whole bunch of bullshit, and it's not working. Here's something that's going to work. Test it with the guys in your group. They tested. They're like, dude, okay, your stuff actually works. Like, what's the deal that we can do? Anyway, he's in one of my groups. He doesn't know that I own the group, and he's posting the same things. He's asking for validation all over the place. Are you doing that in your life? Are you going to church and confessing? Then you're speaking to your therapist and confessing. Then you're going to your coach and confessing, doing all these things, but you're not doing them to end your behavior. You're doing them so that you can alleviate the guilt, and you know full well in a couple of weeks or months you're going to go back to it. Let's continue with what this brother shared. He says, on one hand, I welcome this development because it allows me to manage my life without pornography, even when unexpected slips pop up on social media. I now tend to rely on escorts rather than pornography. He says he welcomes this development because it allows him to manage his life without pornography. No. See, that's the mistake. Your behavior is still the same. Just because you're having lots of sex and whether you are paying for it, whether it is with people that you do not find attractive and there's no intimacy, you're just like, I'm going to just have lots and lots of sex. This is healthy. Your behavior is still the same. You are still running away from the same issues that are going to make your life a living hell, because this was never about pornography. I had so many people. I've had people who've showed up and said things like, you know what? I don't think your program can help me because I'm a sex addict. I'm a this addict. I cross-dress and I message men and have sex. I'm like, bro, it's the same thing. We just are really good at diving deep when it comes to pornography. Pornography is actually a lot more complicated than sex addiction because it is very varied. It is even more private than that. And there is so much fantasy that is involved. And they can recreate things that you can watch that will be very difficult for you to recreate in real life. This is the reason why pornography is more complex. Anytime you find somebody who has expertise, I'm not the only one out there, I'm pretty damn good, but anytime you find somebody who has expertise in dealing with pornography at a deep level, I assure you they are superior to somebody who only deals with the physical acting out behavior. The physical is limited. The mind and the imagination is not. So it is not the problem. It is about the issues that you have been medicating with pornography. When you say that you're relying on escorts to fix your problem, it's worse. Not because it is escorts. There are countries where being an escort is legal, where sex work is legal. And I think I've mentioned this in the past. I personally and professionally, I have no issue with sex work. As long as somebody is safe, as long as they're doing it consensually, they can do whatever the heck they want to do. It has been around and it is, as some say, the world's oldest profession. It ain't none of my business and I'm not involved in it, but it is what it is. It's going to be around. It is not because of sex workers. It is because you are making a conscious choice to pay for sex. You're making a conscious choice to go to the massage parlor. You're making a conscious choice to engage in this behavior. You're pretty much just saying, I switch alcohol for cocaine. Ha ha ha. It's a conscious choice. The only positive thing about this brother sharing is that he was aware enough to call out his problem. And my question for you, my brother who is listening to this, are you going to be self-aware in this moment? Self-aware enough to admit that you do this? Let me tell you this. I don't even care whether you're going to make a decision to end your behavior with pornography today or after this episode. The greatest thing you can do is to hit pause on what you're listening to right now. Whether you're in your car, you're working out, you're going on a walk, pause it and pause yourself for a minute and your thoughts and go like, yeah, I do that shit too. And just call yourself out. And let me tell you this, if you can build that habit of just stopping and to yourself privately say, I engage in that behavior. I lie to myself. Yep, I'm full of shit. Just to yourself, to nobody else, you have made more progress than anything else that you would have done for ending your out of control behavior, especially if you haven't sought professional help. So that's actually the reason I haven't kicked this guy out of the group, because he's done this stuff he's done some other things, but I really commend him for his self-awareness. Now, he is right about one thing, and let's talk about it. Let's switch gears and talk about what we can do to actually fix this. He does have a limiting belief, and his limiting belief is that it's probably similar to yours, brother, that it will take a long time to change himself enough to enjoy healthy sexual intimacy. And he believes that he must have sex now. And I can relate to this so much. One of my biggest fears for like so many years, one of my biggest fears was that I was going to die before I had all the sex. I was like, man, Like, I know orgasm is such a great pleasure, and I had viewed so much pornography. I wanted to have all these crazy sexual experiences. I was like, damn, I want to be with this kind of girl with this kind of body. Ooh, yeah, I really want to feel all these things, but I might die before that. So anytime when you've lived with lack, when you've lived with scarcity, anytime you have the opportunity to engage in that thing, you will overindulge. If you never had access to ice cream, when you have access to ice cream, you will overindulge. Like as a kid, if you never had access to candy and your candy supply was limited, you would overeat when you got candy. If you never had money growing up, the moment money gets into your hands, what do? You spend it. And it's the same thing with sex. When you gain access to pornography, this is the reason why a lot of our Christian brothers, a lot of our conservative, repressed brothers overindulge in fantasy. They indulge in masturbation to a compulsive degree. They view a lot of pornography till they become addicted. Why? Because it is something that you perceive to be lacking in your life. And so you just do it till you're completely sexually satiated. You binge and binge and binge. You are afraid that you will never have this experience. But you're not pausing to ever think about, like, why am I going so deep into this? I used to have this fear. I overcame it by rebooting. Sex became an important thing, but not a thing that I really needed. And here's the crazy thing about whether it is sex, it is money, it is sugar, it is whatever the hit is that you're getting, is the moment you believe that you have an abundance of it, the moment that you change your life to become a person who is wealthy in intimacy, then you become wealthy in sex. The moment that you become a person who realizes that he is wealthy financially, then you become a person who attracts a lot of money to himself. The moment it applies to everything, whether it is discipline or it is your belief about your body. You're just like, you know what? I'm a person I have the discipline to go to the gym on a regular basis and manage my nutrition. The moment that you believe that you have unlimited capacity compared to other people, or just in general, to do something, that thing becomes something that is quote unquote easy to get in your life. I don't wake up in the morning freaking out about how I'm going to pay my bills. I know it will be paid and taken care of because I've set my life up that way. But I set my life up that way because I acquired certain beliefs. I don't wake up in the morning fearful that I may never have sex again, because not only have I had a lot of sex, but I've also set up my life in a way where there is intimacy and there is access to sex. The same thing for my body and fitness. I'm not worried that I'm going to wake up and lose my muscles or be skinny forever, the way I used to worry about it when I was like in my late teens. No. Because I've already built that body and I know how to do it. So this is a false belief. I told him he needs to work with our neuro reprogramming coach, Milan. I highly recommend that everybody who has limiting beliefs work with him because he's an expert at this. In fact, if you want him to hypnotize you and hypnotize your beliefs away, he can do the same. He doesn't hypnotize your beliefs away, okay? That's not how it works, but you get what I'm saying. So here's how you can change your life. The first thing is you can change your life and be sexually active within a year to 2 years. But actually, I believe you can do it within a year. There are men in our dating reboot program who are losing their virginity in a healthy way and who are also getting into committed relationships regularly. This is happening like every other week within our dating reboot program. Why? Because we're experts in that area as well. So if you're one of those guys who's just like, I pay escorts because I don't think I'm attractive enough, or I don't think I have what's necessary to attract a woman into my life or attract women into my life and have sex, healthy sex on a regular basis, oh, brother, we will smash that limiting belief for you and we will train you and show you how to do it. We will get you to a point where your friends in your life look at you and go like, bro, what the heck happened? How are women so attracted to you? The second thing is that he has this belief that he's not a monk. And that belief is based on the belief that, hey, I need sex. That's your addict speaking. But you can't tell the difference. Sex is important, as I've said earlier, but your addict subpersonality has made it a top priority. It is not a top priority. In a few months of using escorts while pretending to reboot, you're only going to accomplish two things. And this goes for those of you listening. If you're listening and you're still using escorts and then telling yourself that it's more healthy to do that than recover, the first thing that's going to happen is that you will never be able to trust any sort of program that heals you from out of control behavior. You will never trust any recovery program. You will also lose the ability to be intimate with a woman. Additionally, it is very unlikely that you're going to be able to achieve any form of sustainable financial independence. If you become addicted or dependent to paying for sex in some way or the other, especially if you are replacing one addiction with sex, you are in trouble. It is completely different from a person who is their addiction is already a sex addiction. But if you're going from porn to replacing it with sex, remember what I said earlier, that pornography addiction is way more dangerous than actual sex addiction because the imagination is unlimited, while what you can do physically and how much money you can spend is actually limited, especially for somebody who's already dealing with this addiction. So what's the problem there? The problem there is you're going to try to use escorts to replace something which is imaginative, which is unlimited, and you are going to go broke. Your unconscious mind is going to take over, and you are going to spend everything you have trying to replace and fit something that you thought only pornography could fix. And you're going to try to do it in the real world, which is insane. I have seen men go broke. I have seen men go homeless. I have seen men go to prison. I've seen men engage in criminal activity, all because they moved from pornography addiction to sex addiction. Let's address this for a second. I've addressed it many times on this podcast, but some of you might be newer or haven't listened to all the episodes. There are people who think that, if in the process of rebooting, you start having sex with multiple women, you will become an addict. That is not true. If you start developing healthy intimacy with women, if you put intimacy first, intimacy being emotional closeness, where there's compassion, there's caring, there's curiosity, there is kindness for another human being, and your sexual desire comes from that place because you have to be close. It is a prerequisite to sexual interaction with another human being. Then your reboot is actually going to move ahead faster. You will quit pornography faster. You will end your behavior and you will rewire your brain faster. Why? Because pornography does not have intimacy. So when you start viewing pornography, you're like, what the heck is going on? This is not helping me. Where's the intimacy? Why does this look dumb? Why are these people acting? What's this person's story? Why would they do that? These are the things that will start happening to you. This is why you cannot become addicted to sex when intimacy is a priority. Again, many of you have been fooled into thinking that, just having sex with multiple women when I'm recovery, quote unquote, or rebooting is a bad thing. However, paying for sex is a completely different thing. That is not intimacy either. Even though I know there's some of you listening to this who think you're being intimate. You think you're being intimate because you don't show up as a creepy, dirty dude. You show up as a cool dude. You're having a conversation with the sex worker. Maybe you're like chatting and having a drink first. I don't give a fuck whether it is a sugar baby. I don't care how you're doing it. If you are paying for it and you are consciously using that as a replacement for pornography, you're fucked. Let's just get that straight. Get it into your head. It is going to fuck with your finances. Now, basically, in harsh terms, you're just going to be a loser. You're still worthy of being loved, but you're still going to be a loser. Solution. Let me just make this clear. Not everybody's going to make it, y'all. Not everybody is going to make it. Not everybody is going to quit pornography. Not everybody is going to be free from this behavior. I know that. I know that because I have done this for a long time, and I have seen men give up. I've seen men fool themselves and just tell themselves, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to live with this. I want the pleasure of pornography, even though it takes some very fucked up behavior for me to accomplish orgasm. Even though I am now dependent on drugs, I'm now dependent on different things to satisfy my nervous system and my urges, which are massive. Even though for most of my life, I'm going to spend the rest of my life repressing very strong emotions. It's like you have like a tsunami of negativity and pain behind you. But over the years, you get more invested in protecting yourself and feeling different about that. Some men have decided that they are going to live a self-destructive life. Just want to get that out of the way. Your low self-esteem is your biggest issue if you're a man who believes that the only way for you to have sex is to pay for it. And I am fully convinced of this. If you start, number one, fully embracing the reboot system, if you drink the Kool-Aid, yes, drink the Kool-Aid. What's wrong with drinking the Kool-Aid? Nothing's wrong with drinking the Kool-Aid because there's nothing in this program that is designed to harm you. I have not said anything on this podcast at any time that if you implemented it in your life, you would harm yourself mentally, emotionally, or otherwise. It might be very hard. It might be painful, but it is not going to cause you harm. Going to the gym and lifting a weight that is too heavy for you is not harmful to you. Running a distance that is longer than what you're used to running might cause you to be sore for a few days, but it is not causing any sort of lasting harm. So drink the Kool-Aid, embrace the system. Be radically honest with yourself and use the tools that we offer in the program. Our specialized dialoguing tool. We have all the things you need to break the cycle, your self-talk, and work with Coach Milan on your limiting beliefs. Now, you can invest in Escorts, or you can invest in yourself, which is going to bring you all the sex and the intimacy that you desire in the future. And that future, my brother, it is so much closer than you think. And you don't need to spend a dime to get that. The second thing is, if you are doing this, if you're just like, man, paying for escorts is better, blah, 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 blah. I don't think I have the game. Women are like this. Women don't find me attractive. You have been listening to some form of black pill or incel. Lose incel means involuntarily celibate. Some kind of crappy, low-grade content out there. You're listening to just negativity. You're listening to this nofap and semen retention bullshit. You are surrounded by losers. These communities are the kindergarten of freedom from pornography. I'm specifically referring to any nofap or semen retention content. They are the kindergarten, especially those of you too who are in men's circles, like men's self-improvement stuff. There's a lot of that out there. That a small part of it caters to ending your behavior with pornography. It is still the kindergarten. This is an advanced degree. This is the only thing we do. Everything starts with your behavior with pornography. Like, we have to get it out of the way first. Yeah, we focus on your dating. Yeah, we focus on your physique, your managing your hormones, maximizing them. We focus on your financial reboot. We focus on so many other things in your life. But it all starts with removing the one thing that has stayed with you since you were sexually active, your out of control behavior with pornography. So you got to stay away from that sort of information, low quality information. Next is, if you start stacking up wins in other areas of reboot capital, specifically your physical reboot capital. I mean this. If you don't think that you are an attractive man, the first thing you got to do is transform your body. I want you to see a six-pack. I want you to look at your body and go like, I have an aesthetic physique. I want you to be in awe of your own body. I have a six-pack every single day of the year. Check me at any time. Check me. Why? I started on this journey not because of health. I started because I wanted the self-validation first that I was an attractive person. I looked at my face. I was like, I am not going to be called or accused of being a supermodel or even a model at any point. I better work on my body first. Then I got external validation. There is nothing wrong with starting from there. Please do this for yourself. The discipline that also comes from transforming your body, lifting heavy weights via stretching, via the discipline of consistency that requires that, via the mental resilience that is required to push past your barriers. That alone will build a very strong foundation for your self-esteem, because then you start believing you're capable of accomplishing a goal. And finally, it is a goal that is tangible. You can see it. You can feel the change, and other people can validate it. It is not just internal. It is internal and external. And it is the lowest hanging fruits to change your life. Changing your body is the lowest hanging fruit to changing your entire life. Now, the final thing I want to share is that the reason I've spent like almost 40 minutes talking about this is because this type of behavior was closer to where I was. I find it very relatable being the guy who was replacing pornography with other types of acting, right? The only difference is I didn't even have the money for escorts. So when I acted out, the times I decided to act out, I was engaging in even more dangerous and arguably worse and more shameful acting out behaviors than anyone acting out with escorts. And if I can go from that to transforming my life to who I am today, I believe that every single man who's listening to this, if they choose to do the work, not everybody's going to make it, but everybody has the potential to make it. I believe you can do it.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out of control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.